Now, human beings use resources in everything that we do, but this video in particular is going to focus on business and the use of resources by a business. And why is that? Well, business is the vehicle that we've created to grow more efficient in our use of resources. So with that in mind, we need to step back and take a look into this existence that we all experience as human beings, the human universe. And within that universe of humanity, there are three separate worlds. We live in the spiritual world, we live in the inner world, and we also, at the same time, live in the material world. So upon considering this human universe, we realize that there's actually three separate sets of resources. There's spiritual resources, inner resources, and material resources. So the challenge for a human being, particularly within a business, is lining up and streamlining the use of all three sets of resources to accomplish something with conscious intentionality. So how to use resources is really a study of the spiritual resources, the inner resources, and the material resources, and using them all toward the same end. So we're going to start with spiritual resources, because this is where the you dwells, the soul, the free-willed being that has an ambitious intent to accomplish something. And the purpose here is to be. When human beings were designed, we were given the responsibility to fill the earth, to subdue the earth, and to rule the earth. And these are more than just prerogatives of action. This is a statement of identity. Each of us is either a filler, a subduer, or a ruler. So the primary resource, the spiritual resources from which all things flow, is a soul being a subduer, a soul being a filler, or a soul being a ruler. Now, when there is a soul embodying one of these attributes, it organizes the material resources and the inner resources towards an expression of that being. So as a soul is a subduer, the mind, heart, and body try to figure out how to express that subduer, and then they use material resources to accomplish that end. So the soul orchestrates not by doing, not by feeling, not by thinking, but by being. Being is leading. The beer doesn't do anything, doesn't feel anything, doesn't think anything. You become the model, the inspirational being that then the mind, heart, and body want to express into the world. So the spiritual resources is the state of being that we're embodying as a soul. And that brings us then to the inner resources. We have this team with us, this mind, heart, and body, that produces these amazing thoughts, emotions, and actions within this inner world, and those resources are critical. But it's not actually the thoughts, emotions, and actions that are the resource. We need something to propagate thoughts, emotions, and actions. You may be an inspirational soul that's being a subduer, filler, or ruler, but something else is required. And that something is the inner resources. First, we have visionary mental energy, the energy to think, to form pictures within the mind is what comes before the thought. The energy itself, the excitement to think, to picture, to envision a future. That is the visionary mental energy. And rulers, the beings, the souls who are being a ruler, propagate visionary mental energy. That's what they do. But then you also need meaningful emotional defiance. Now, children embody this very well. They always want to be defiant. They're going to feel something, and they don't care what you think. They don't care what you do. They're going to defiantly feel something. Now, it should be noted that it's meaningful emotional defiance, and as children grow, they become more artful in their emotional defiance because the purpose is to be meaningful. But still, this resource is critical. If you don't have defiance, you don't feel anything. You just go along with the flow. Whatever's there is fine. You're not going to be defiant. You're not going to make waves. But a filler makes waves. A filler is defiant, creating that emotional meaning to serve the vision created by the mind, but doing it in a defiant way. Because the mind, heart, and body have to work together, but still that heart needs to be defiant nonetheless. And that brings us to the final inner resource: purposeful physical determination. When you are determined to do something, nothing can stop you. It might take a long time to accomplish the aim that you've set for yourself, but if you're determined enough, the body will find a way to get the job done. And without determination, there's no way to act. You just sit there because you don't have enough physical determination. So when the soul is being someone, the mind fills pictures out of the energy, wants to see the picture of that soul. The heart wants to feel the defiant nature of that soul, and then the body wants to act it out with determination. When you put those things together, you get a spiritual resource that's empowering and directing mental, emotional, and physical resources to deliver something to the world. So all three are needed. And in a business, you're going to want rulers in your business because you need that energy. You also need those filling individuals to provide meaningful defiance so that you don't do things the way everybody else does things. You need that defiance. And you need the subduers to provide that determination to get the job done. So that then brings us to material resources, the resources that we use that have a tangible nature outside of our body. The first is time. Now, time is a tool. It's not a real thing. It's something we've created because it's very useful. It allows us to measure something. So, for example, when you have an idea, was that 30 seconds particularly special? Was there something in that 30 seconds that allowed an idea to be formed? Well, no, it's the same 30 seconds that you had 30 seconds before that too. But when you see that 30 seconds where you had that brilliant idea, that allows you to measure. So you see line A, I had that brilliant idea in 30 seconds, and then, but what about the 30 seconds before that on line B? What was the difference there? How was I using my mental energy, my emotional defiance, and my physical determination to produce line A? How did I do that? It allows you to measure between time segments. The same segments of time help us understand how we used our resources to produce an intentional outcome. So that's very useful. And rulers are very good at helping us use time in a more orderly fashion that shows us this is the way to use resources. Then we come to tools. As we develop our ability to use time more effectively, we get very stressed out because we're doing so much, we have so much energy, but we don't have the means to produce something with all that energy. And this is where the fillers come in. They build the tools that allow us to leverage our inner resources more effectively. So these fillers around us, building those tools, lets us utilize the time that we're getting more effective in using and use those inner resources towards greater purposeful ends. And that brings us to the final material resource, the tinkerers, the individuals who get the work done. They're very special because they do things in ways that no one else can do. They're focused and determined. They want to achieve an end inside a bigger group of individuals, but they still want to be special and recognized for what they do. So their first responsibility is getting the job done, but they also have another side to them. If there's a failure at the leadership level, the tinkerers get very angry because they want to do something meaningful, something special, something exciting. And when there's mismanagement by the directors, that prohibits them from achieving their ends, and they get very upset accordingly. So the time material resource helps us to measure, the tools help us to leverage, and the tinkerers help us to get it done, and get it done in ways that we ourselves can't accomplish. Only the tinkerers can do things the way they can do it, and they're very good at meeting that purposeful outcome. So then we can see how to use resources. The first step is to be a spiritual resource, to be a subduer, filler, or ruler. Then there must be an intentional cultivation of the inner resources. We must intentionally see to the fact that our energy, our mental energy, is always growing, that our emotional defiance is always growing, particularly growing more meaningful, and then our physical determination to get to that end, no matter what obstacles are put in our way, also needs intentional cultivation. And then the last thing is to measure. Use the resources out here in the world, the time, the tools, and the tinkers, to measure our material resource use, how effective we're being in achieving the outcome that we desire. Because we only use life's resources effectively when we are being the resource.